there was a man I had the pleasure and opportunity to meet before he made his transition. His name was Ruchell Mcgee.
Okay.
He was from Louisiana. He was arrested at 15 in Louisiana for allegedly attempting to rape a white woman. Um, at the time of his trial, black people could not testify against white people. So all his family members who knew that he and this woman, this older woman, had been in a relationship. And when it came time for his sentencing, they sentenced this 15-year-old little kid to 8 years in Angola State Prison for attempting to rape this white woman, whom even her neighbors had seen Ruchell Mcgee there. And I thought that was bad. This same man would come to California upon release from Angola prison because Louisiana told him he needed to get out of the state. He left the state. His mother left him property in the state, which, when I looked through his paperwork, some kind of way was sold to someone else without even his signature or knowledge. He comes to California, as Louisiana told him to, and he was arrested because of a $5 bag of weed and him getting into a fight with some guy at a Tropicana nightclub, over a young woman who was there, whom they both had eyes for. They give him a 1 to life sentence. They charged him with a robbery or theft of an automobile because of some keys. It was a hazy situation. So he ends up in prison here as a young man. He's probably 21 or 22. He is in the Marin County courtroom in 1970 when Jonathan Jackson, George Jackson's brother, came to the court with weapons they were supposedly had gotten from Angela Davis. And there's a shootout at the courthouse. Everyone's dead except Ruchell Mcgee, who happened to be in court that day to testify against officers for killing people in the prison. None of the bullets belonged to Ruchell Mcgee or Jonathan Jackson or anyone else who was part of this revolt. Ruchell Mcgee being the only survivor, well, him and the man who was a DA who became a judge. So those were the two survivors. Ruchell Mcgee spent 67 years of his life in prison. Even though none of the bullets were from any of their weapons, they all came from the correctional officers' guns, and he spent 25 of those years in solitary confinement. So I met him because we pick people up when they're released from prison, and we were asked to pick him up. And he was 83 years old when we picked him up, and he survived for 3 months. And that is the way that our men, our fathers, our grandfathers are given back to us. And so when I began to do research and learn more about Ruchell Mcgee, I didn't see a bad person. I learned about someone who was so committed to Black liberation and Black freedom that he sacrificed his whole life. He could have done a lot of things while in there, but he became a what they call a jailhouse attorney, and he helped other people become free, even though he knew he would never be free. They ended up releasing him on what they call compassionate release. It's basically releasing people home to die. And he was able to come home and spend time with his cousin, and she cared for him. And from that, we decided to create a Ruchell Mcgee Community Land Trust, so that when other people who have spent much of their life in prison come home, they can come home and enjoy the dream, the aspiration of home ownership that's not based upon the market prices of housing, which, if we know anything about housing today, we know that the prices are high, and most of us could not afford to get into this market today. And so we want to make that an opportunity for other people, and we want to lift up the name of Ruchell Mcgee because most people never heard of him and won't hear of him.
They'll hear of him now.
I hope so.
They'll hear of him. They just did.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that story.